Let me tell you, I never thought one generator could turn an entire neighborhood upside down. But that's exactly what happened. If you told me, back before the winter of '26, that I'd end up fighting my HOA in a battle that'd end with a woman in jail and a bunch of news crews parked outside my house, I probably would have laughed, or at least changed the subject. But that's what happened. And if you've ever dealt with a homeowners association, you might want to stick around. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss this one. The day it all started, I was just your average guy living in Bloomington, Minnesota. Name's Vincent. And yeah, maybe I take things a little too seriously, but when meteorologists start shouting about wind chills of -60, you'd have to be an idiot not to pay attention. Especially with 2 kids and a wife who's always cold, no matter what the thermostat says. I kept seeing these guys on TV with those puffy vests, saying, "Prepare now, or else." So I did. 2 days before that monster storm hit, I drove out to Edna and dropped more money than I want to admit on a generator. A real beast, not some rinky-dink portable thing you run with a can of gas and a prayer. This one ran on natural gas, hooked right into the house, big enough to power everything. The lights, the fridge, the furnace, even my daughter's nightlight, which was apparently non-negotiable. The installers came out, worked through a snow squall, and by the time the first flake hit the ground, I was ready. I actually felt a little smug, I'm not going to lie. I figured let the storm come. We'd be warm. We'd be safe. And then, right on cue, the storm hit like it had a personal grudge against Minnesota. The temperature dropped 20 degrees before I finished my coffee. The wind was so loud, it felt like I was living next to a jet engine. I could barely see the neighbor's house through all that white. And then, just like they'd warned, the power went out. You know that hush you get when everything dies at once. The TV, the fridge, even the annoying hum from the lights, all gone. But then, 15 seconds later, boom. The generator kicked in. Lights back. Furnace humming. My kids cheered like I just pulled off a magic trick. For about a day, we were living like royalty in a world gone cold. And I mean that literally. I had coffee, I had heat, I had the Vikings game streaming. I should have known it couldn't last. The first sign of trouble, you probably guessed it, wasn't the weather. It was Patricia Hallbrook, HOA president, defender of all things beige and bland, out there in a purple parka that made her look like a grape with arms. She comes stomping up my walk, leaving a trail of footprints that filled in before she was even back to the street. I open the door before she even knocks because I know how these talks go, and man, the look on her face, like she's here to tell me my dog's been barking at the wrong pitch. "Vincent," she says, voice sharp enough to peel paint. "We need to talk about that generator." Now, I get it. HOAs, they've got rules. Don't leave your garbage can out, cut your grass, don't paint your door chartreuse. But this was a blizzard. People could die. I told her as much, standing there in my socks, freezing air blowing right into the kitchen. She didn't even flinch, just shoved a piece of paper in my face and told me I had 24 hours to shut it down. Noise violation, she said, waving the HOA handbook like it was the U.S. Constitution. $500 a day in fines if I didn't comply. And I wish I could say I stayed calm, but I didn't. "Patricia," I said, "my family could freeze if I turn it off. My pipes could burst. And besides, half the city's dark. Who's even listening to the noise?" She didn't care, not even a little. She just repeated that line about rules and stomped off like she just dropped the mic. My wife, Sarah, comes in and sees the look on my face. "What now?" she asks. I hand her the notice. She reads it, eyebrows climbing higher and higher, and finally just laughs. She wants us to freeze so she can have quiet. I had to admit, it was a hell of a line, but also not funny at all. So what do? You're stuck. You can freeze your kid for the sake of HOA rules, or you can pay fines that could buy you a used car. That night, I lay awake listening to the generator hum and thinking, this can't be real life. But the next morning, it got worse. The house felt cold. Too cold. I shot out of bed, checked the thermostat, and realized the generator was off. I panicked, rushed outside, and found the gas line had been unscrewed. Not by accident, either. Someone, and by someone, I mean Patricia or one of her minions, because who else would be out in -40 at 3 in the morning, risking frostbite to enforce an HOA rule? Had disconnected it. Just left it dangling. That was a different kind of cold, not just in the air but in my chest. Because that wasn't just a petty power trip. That was dangerous. I managed to hook it back up, hands shaking so hard I could barely turn the wrench. Got the thing running again, thank God. Filed a police report, but let's be honest, the cops had more urgent things going on than chasing down suburban saboteurs. I tried to play it smart after that, installed a camera, chained the access panel, set up a motion detector, put up a big sign, area under video surveillance. And what do you know? Next morning, who do I see on my camera? Patricia herself, peering over my fence, reading the sign. She turned and walked away, but now I had proof if I ever needed it. You ever feel like you're the only sane person left? That's how I felt, walking into Patricia's house for the emergency HOA meeting they called the next day. Candlelight, everyone in coats and hats, breath visible in the air, and they want to talk about community standards. Donald the lawyer, Jennifer the treasurer, Robert the secretary, Susan at large, all sitting there like some suburban star chamber. I told them, straight up, not turning it off, not paying the fines. Take me to court if you want. Patricia blustered, Donald quoted rules, Jennifer talked about fairness. It was like talking to a wall. I told them, you're not suffering because of my generator. You're suffering because you'd rather be right than be warm. That didn't go over too well. They voted anyway, ordered me to stop running it, double the fines. So, I lawyered up, sent them a letter. I declined to comply. See you in court. And then, and here's where it gets interesting, the neighbors started talking. First was Frank Patterson, the guy next door. He showed up with a petition, said he was sick of Patricia's nonsense, and wanted to get her booted as HOA president. Turns out, a lot of people were sick of her. Roses planted without approval, Halloween decorations left up a day too long, wind chimes. You name it, she'd written someone up for it. Frank got the signatures he needed. People started dropping off notes, emails, even cookies. One neighbor wrote, "Thank you for giving us hope." I put that on my fridge, still there to this day. The story spread. Somebody posted about it online. Next thing you know, the news shows up, microphones in my face. Suddenly, I'm that guy with the generator, the hero or the villain, depending on which side of the street you lived on. I got interview requests, offers for legal defense funds, strangers coming up to me at the grocery store. Meanwhile, Patricia kept pushing, sent lawyers after me, filed for the fines, tried to get my generator removed. But the tide was turning. Frank's petition worked. They scheduled a special election. The whole board out. New people came in, reasonable folks, people who actually wanted to make the neighborhood better, not just enforce rules for the sake of rules. And Patricia? Well, the police finally caught up. Turns out, she'd sabotaged not just my generator, but a bunch of others too. They had her on camera. She got arrested, went to trial, convicted of trespassing, criminal mischief, even reckless endangerment. Jail time, probation, fines. Her husband left her, her reputation shot. All because she couldn't let go of her need to control everyone else. After that, things changed. The HOA dropped the fines, passed a new rule allowing backup generators, started focusing on real problems like playgrounds and potholes. The whole place felt lighter, like someone had opened a window. And me? I kept the generator, kept it ready. I fired up every month just to be sure, because Minnesota winters aren't getting any easier, and I'm not risking my family's safety on someone else's idea of community harmony ever again. You know, it's funny, I never wanted to be an activist. I just wanted to keep my family warm. But sometimes the right thing to do is the hardest. It means standing up, being willing to get yelled at, even threatened. Sometimes it means being the first to take the heat, so others see they're not alone. I learned that HOAs can do good, but only if the people running them remember they're there to serve, not to rule. The second they forget, it's up to folks like you and me to remind them, with votes, with voices, if we have to, with a camera pointed at the backyard generator. So, here's what I'm left wondering, and maybe you are too. Where's the line? When does a rule meant to help everyone become a weapon against someone just trying to get by? And when is it right to push back, even if it means breaking the rules? I'd love to hear what you think. Have you ever stood up to a bully with a clipboard or fought for your family when the powers that be said no? Tell me your story, right or wrong. I figure the more we talk about this stuff, the better shot we've got at not letting it happen again.
Cảm ơn tất cả các bạn đã xem video.